So now we're going to take a look at how to create an oblique view for creating a section, like an elevation view section, like this one right here. Now, I realize that we've now had a chance to wrestle a little bit with creating oblique view with plan. I know that was a kind of a couple steps to, oopsies, to get our to get our Rhino model to a warped state where we could essentially have a pretty good oblique view to work with. So we're just going to go through steps to create something like this. Now I will let you know in advance that a fair bit of the work that I did with this, fairly simple, but a good chunk of the creating of the insides, that sort of thing, I did end up doing after I had brought my my Make 2D, I guess, Rhino line file into AutoCAD. So a fair bit of this work was done in there and then cleaned up in Illustrator. But I'll at least tell you how to get to a good state where you'll have something pretty strong you can export that's in the correct oblique view. So let's get into it. Here we have our, our model. Now, a big part of this is we're going to need to start working from an angle that's going to be actually like useful to essentially create an oblique view from. So you notice how over here, this face along here that's this face here, right? So essentially what's going to have to happen is we're going to take whatever this desired face is. If it was this one, I'd be rotating it over this way, but in this case, I would like something that is now shooting along this line. And that you're going to see why in a minute. So that's going to be the first step is let's grab a polyline, left click, move over to a point on the top view. It can be really anywhere. It's just a reference ruler right now. Left click, drag a nice perpendicular line here. Left click again, hit enter to end that line. Now we're going to take this whole big mess here and we're going to rotate it so that this face is concurrent with this line here. And then we'll be ready to get started. So just to show you what I did there, I apologize for the siren. I live downtown. We're going to hold the left cursor down. We're going to drag a box over the entire model, just like so. Then we're going to type rotate, R-O-T-A-T-E. Center of rotation. It's going to be that point that we drew that spot from, just like that. Left click. Which piece do we want to rotate according to? This one looks pretty good to me. That's going to be the wall we're going to work from. Left click again, and we'll grab the whole mess, and there we go. So it kind of wants to snap there, thanks to the O snaps. So we'll left click one more time, and great. Now you'll see here as well that in the other views, you can see that, since this is the top view, and it's now facing south, then when we're in the front view, now everything we're looking at here is now directly based on what's where you'd sort of be if you were standing down here. So far, so good. Here, let's get rid of this line for now. We don't need him anymore. So now we're going to discuss the next step. Now, this is where things do get a little bit interesting, but I promise you it is just a couple key moves that's going to get us what we want. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to move over, and we're going to actually use the box tool for this to get us started. So we're going to left click the box tool, left click, and we're going to make sure that we're encompassing everything we got in here in a nice box here. So we're going to left click anywhere around here. It just needs to be big enough that it encases the whole model. So left click, no drag needed. It'll automatically want to find that next point. Left click, and because it wants to know what that third dimension is, let's make it nice and high. We'll adjust it a little more in a sec, but sure, that looks high enough. Left click. Great. Now, okay, this is good. The box is a good size, but the whole model needs to be inside of what we're about to work with. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go over to the right, or I suppose you could do it in the front view if you wanted to. You're going to grab it by just selecting, anywhere along the outer line. Be out here if you want to. And we're going to move that, we're going to scooch that down a little bit using the move tool, just so that everything in the model is nice and compact inside of our box. So we're going to type M for move, M-O-V-E, if you want to complete it. Hit enter. Point to move from. It doesn't really matter. I mean, the idea is we're just generally shifting it down. So how about, pick somewhere out here, anywhere out here. We're going to left click, no drag needed. We'll just move our cursor down a little bit and then left click again. Now everything's actually inside of it. And case in point, if you will go over to the perspective view here, you left click and you go to wireframe. Look at that. It's all in there just the way we want it. We can even leave this view in perspective for now. It's fine. That's kind of helpful for us. Now here's where the next step comes in. You're going to take this whole sort of composite thing we have going here. You're going to left click and drag and hold over the whole thing we're sort of working on here, this whole model. And you're going to use something that we might not have discussed yet too much, and that's going to be the group tool. So that's G-R-O-U-P. Then you're going to hit enter. Now don't worry, these are going to be very easy to separate. We haven't booleaned anything. They're not permanently stuck together. They're just grouped for right now, which is going to be really helpful for us. And you'll see why in a sec. Okay, now here's where the fun really starts. We're going to go over to top view. And the first thing we're going to do is type. We're going to use a new tool called Scale 1D. So we're going to type scale, S-C-A-L-E, 1D. There it is. Great. We're going to hit enter. It's going to ask us to select objects to scale. So we're going to, we're going to left click, hold down and drag. Again, we're going to grab this whole package that we've all grouped together just now. We're going to hit enter. It's going to ask us for a base point. Now, I'm going to recommend here, and this is where it's also really nice to be able to see what's going on in your other views. You're going to use the lower left as your base point, sort of on your box here. So however you've drawn your box, I would love it if you grab the lower left. Okay, see here, that's the upper left. You can tell from the perspective view. So we're even going to just scooch down. That's the one we want. Sometimes you kind of have to use multiple views to really make sure you're grabbing in the right spot. So we've got the lower left. We'll left click. And it's going to ask for a scale factor or first reference point. So what we're going to do, and this part is kind of specific, is we're going to type 0.7075. So once we've got 0.7075 typed in, we're going to hit enter. Whoa, and look at this. This is good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pull this line. You see here, doesn't want to quite go all the way. We're going to, in the top view, we're going to pull this line as far as we can go in the Y direction. So to the point where we see it's sort of got this new, instead of kind of flopping around like this, we're going to pull it all the way up in the Y direction for the top view to the point where it's sort of assumed that final scale direction. And then we're going to left click. Good. Now, do you remember the Shear tool from when we were developing the plan oblique? We're going to use it again. So here's what we're going to do. Again, with everything selected, left click, drag, and hold down. In our top view, we're working in the top view, we're going to type Shear, S-H-E-A-R, and we're going to hit enter. Now it's going to ask for the origin point. And we're going to, again, thanks to the multiple perspective views here, we're going to go to that exact same spot. So we're going to move over to this corner. We're going to shift down to the lower left. We're going to left click. We're going to move up along the y-axis direction, just like so, back in the top view. The top view is very important for this sort of stage. And we're going to left click again. Now it's going to ask for a shear angle. Not a problem. What we're going to do is we're going to type 45 and hit enter. Great. So now I know it still doesn't look like much or anything, but it will soon, trust me. Now we're going to use that shear tool again. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to move up to the right viewport. We're going to left click, drag, and hold to select everything in our box. We're going to type shear again, S-H-E-A-R. We're going to hit enter. It's going to ask for an origin point. And man, we sure are big fans of the lower left-hand part of this box here, because that's exactly where we're going to click for the right-hand view here. So there. We're going to move down to here. And like I said, you can kind of tell, even though the perspective is getting a little warped, that's the right spot. So we're going to grab the lower left-hand corner of the box, left-click. It's going to ask for a reference point. And yep, this one looks good to me. We're going to move all the way up, just y-axis, left-click, and we're going to type negative 45 degrees. Whoa, excellent. Now we're going to hit enter. Now, again, I know that in perspective view it's looking very warped. In the right view it is also extremely warped, but look at what we have in the top view here. We've got now essentially a Rhino model that's been fully adapted to be an elevation oblique. So I know the problem right now that you're probably thinking is we got this box in the way still. Now this is why it's really handy that we just use the group tool, because now that we've sort of used this box to get us there, we can ungroup it. So here's what we'll do. You can click pretty much any of these, or, you know, just for the sake of it. Let's try clicking in the respective view. We're going to type ungroup, U-N-G-R-O-U-P. We're going to hit enter. And you know, we can just completely delete that box now. It's served its purpose. It's served us very well. Now, here's what we're going to do next. We're going to move back to our top view. And let's see what we're dealing with. Let's go to shaded for a sec. Wow, okay, so that's really good. What we're going to do with this though is, because having those you know, having the wireframe is actually kind of handy right now, because you guys are going to need to draw an actual section from this. And like I say, that'll probably be more of an AutoCAD task. I'm still going to show you how to essentially finish this part. We're going to select everything, hold down a left click and drag. And we're going to use the same tool that we've used the last couple of times anytime we've wanted to take a Rhino image and make it so that it is adaptable into AutoCAD. Turn it into AutoCAD lines. So we're going to type, you guessed it, make 2D, M-A-K-E, 2D. Then we're going to hit enter. Top view, yep, looks right. Projection view, you can make sure your screen is matching mine. That looks good to me. And we're going to go okay. And it's going to crunch through this. It'll just take a second to make sense of what we just asked it to do. Aha, so great. Now you see that everything, I realized that when we bring this into AutoCAD, we're going to have to figure out some ways to essentially, you know, create a section out of this. So I mean, you'll be able to, somebody's got a very loud bass out there, sorry. You'll essentially be able to turn this into a section view, however you choose. You'll be able to design the wall thicknesses and everything as you see fit. And I understand that, you know, you and Tawab and Maria will have sort of discussed how to essentially draw a section, but this will at least give you something really solid to work from in terms of a pretty effective 2D CAD file. So really, one more time, I'll show you how we take this and we put it in AutoCAD. Here we go. Left click, drag and hold down over the whole set of lines we just created with Make 2D. We're going to type export, E-X-P-O-R-T. Now that we've used the Make 2D tool, we are going to essentially export this as a DWG file. So as you might recall, we're going to left click, hold down, drag over the whole mess of lines that we've just created using Make 2D. We're going to type export, E-X-P-O-R-T, hit enter. We're going to call this elevation oblique. Now, we're going to scroll down here in terms of save as type to, you guessed it, DWG. Great. We're going to type or hit save, and it's going to produce that for us. These settings are fine. Hit OK. Now, when we go into my very messy file structure, we can see that it's saved. Great. We'll double click, and we'll have a look at what we're going to be able to work with in AutoCAD. And like I was saying before, I realize that you and Tawab have gone through drawing sections, you know, creating section elevations, and you will still have to do a little bit of legwork on that, I think, with this. But all this is going to do is this just produced all the background information, whether it's, you know, here we are, whether it's things like, you know, your art gallery, if that's part of it, or your light standards, all these things that are now in the background, those are appropriate to elevation oblique. Like, those are measurable and correct. Now, I realize that what you'll probably still have to do is you're still going to have to create a, you know, go about creating a section, however you choose to develop that. But essentially, this is a good way to get you started, so that now you've got a CAD file to work from where you're just cutting away the pieces of this drawing that aren't relevant to your section. Essentially, you'll be doing most of the work in CAD to turn this into this. But this should give you what you need to at least get your Rhino model into a workable elevation oblique.